In a Spanish harbour, the Cook report goes underwater to recover evidence lost in a battle with latter-day Spanish pirates. Tonight, how we caught Spanish fishermen lying and cheating to steal British fish in a multi-million-pound swindle. This ship has regularly broken the rules.
Yes, as to how much fish there is.
I don't want to talk about it, okay?
Every day off the coasts of Britain and Ireland, the fight to stop illegal fishing goes on.
Good morning, Golf Bravo Tango Hotel Romeo.
The worst offenders are Spanish ships.
Yeah, another one has come in there.
It's more than just a scandal, it's fraud. It is just systematic fraud that's been going on.
No, DI4126.
There are 250 Spanish trawlers fishing in British and Irish waters.
He's on 16.
Not all break the rules, but those that do so in the most cavalier way.
Another one there is a 15, you see.
You represent a fishing constituency. How would you describe what the Spaniards are doing?
It's piracy, without any question. Absolute piracy.
In the week when Parliament votes on the very future of the European community, at least one key policy seems dead in the water, and the architect of the EC fisheries policy says British fishermen have a right to be outraged.
If I were a British fisherman, yes, I think I would feel very angry for this because, I mean, obviously it's going to cut their incomes. And for a lot of fishermen, I think it's going to perhaps make them bankrupt.
We've shared the storms with British fishermen to get the evidence to prove how the Spanish are blatantly breaking the law. Proof that many Spanish boats have built-in secret smuggling holes. Proof that many Spanish boats falsify their plans to fool the authorities. To British fishermen, it's a long-running scandal.
Roger!
The road along the rocky northwest coast of Spain leads to Ondarroa, the principal home port for these latter-day pirates and home territory for ETA, Spain's near equivalent to the IRA.
If you expose this scandal, they'll bust your cameras, throw you in the water.
We did, and they tried, but not before we'd got the evidence. We waited for one particular boat returning home from UK waters. The Juan Mari has convictions for illegal fishing and has been caught with a secret fish smuggling hold. In Ondarroa, it seems, such holds are commonplace. What do they hide in these hidden holes?
They hold fish that are too little to be caught.
So, if a boat brings home, say, 500 boxes, how many of them would be illegal?
Well, it depends, but generally, if there are 500 big boxes, about 200 will be illegal.
And that could mean an extra £50,000 profit every trip. The Juan Mari has been away for 20 days to fish British and Irish waters, since her own waters have been heavily overfished. Ondarroa has 60 or 70 deep-sea boats, like the Juan Mari, locally owned and locally crewed. But the captain is the surprise. Dennis Ward is British. The Juan Mari flies a British so-called flag of convenience, which requires that the skipper, though no other member of the crew, is British. Indeed, on paper and on its stern, the Juan Mari claims to come from Milford Haven, but that's a legal charade.
The Spanish flagships have no convenience from Milford whatsoever. They don't land any fish here. They just come in as courtesy visits and away they go and land the fish back in Spain.
John Rogers runs the last deep-sea boat based in Milford Haven. Once there were scores, now there is but one genuine British boat and 24 absentee Spanish boats flying the British flag.
I don't think it's right, no. If they're supposed to be British, they should be landing the fish in Britain and policed properly by our MAF, but they're not. They go and land the fish over there and not policed at all.
Indeed, in Ondarroa, where they often choose to unload at dead of night, there's rarely a Spanish fishing inspector in sight. The only really active inspectors are British and Irish, playing a deadly serious game of hide and seek on the high seas.
Okay. Okay, good. Turning left, 30 degrees, 5 degrees north down, and accelerating.
This is the Irish Navy's fisheries protection vessel, Etna.
El barca, por favor, señor. It's very moving, eh? El barca, or la mar, el barca, el la mar. Para el barca. We just ran a computer check on the vessel below us, the Olamar, and that showed us that she's illegally in the area and she's fishing. So we're calling in what the boys here call the pigeon's mother, the Etna. El barca, or la mar, el barca, or la mar. El barca.
The Irish Navy has caught 16 Spanish-crewed boats with hidden holds in the past 10 months and arrested dozens more for illegal fishing. In this case, the Spanish trawler Olamar has broken just about every rule in the book.
There are no entries whatsoever in his logbook. There's no license. He has no entry telex entered into his logbook. He has no capacity plans on board. He has approximately 13 tons of fish on board.
The toughest job in an ice-covered fish hold is finding the secret fish room. Today, the one rule the ship hasn't broken. In the ice-free hold of the British ship in port, Fisheries Inspector Eddie Derryman showed us how the Spanish do hide undersized or over-quota fish.
Now, on a Spanish fish room, she would probably be full up with ice right across here, 70 or 80 tons of ice. Now, on occasions, what's happened with some vessels is that a tunnel has been dug through the ice here into this bulkhead, and there would be a hatch in here where boxes of whatever would be put in. The hatch would be replaced. This would all be filled up with ice again, and the back of a shovel used just to smooth the ice over, and then suddenly you'll see nothing unless you know where to look.
Boarding parties going there?
Sea Rider is away on, so...
Yep. This time, the Irish Navy does suspect a secret hold. The fish room appears to be much smaller than it should be, according to the ship's official capacity plans.
Again, as you can see, evidence of fresh blood and guts, okay?
They eventually uncover a secret tunnel to slide fish boxes down into the hidden fish hold. But it's too small for a man to use, so where's the access? The answer lies under the carpet in the crew's quarters. The answer lies under the carpet in the crew's quarters. In another vessel, a secret hold was found built inside the ship's fuel tank. The entrance to yet another was through a wardrobe. When the Juan Mari was caught with a secret hold like this, the hidden hold increased its fish-carrying capacity by 50%. Newlyn in Cornwall is one port badly affected by Spanish tactics. Spot checking locally landed fish is fisherman's leader Jim Portis. He wants to ensure that only mature fish have been caught, and he wants Spanish vessels to play by the same rules.
These vessels do take fish in excess of their quotas. They do take fish which is blatantly illegal in terms of its size, and they hide that fish away.
Back in Spain, tiny hake, monkfish and megrim fetch premium prices.
the word greed comes to mind. If significant quantities of undersized fish are being caught and landed, then the long-term consequences for the fishery will be disastrous. The stock won't be able to maintain itself, and hence there will be no sustainable fishery for that particular species.
But at present, in many a Spanish restaurant, tiny fish, especially hake, are a speciality, despite the fact that it's illegal to catch or land them. In Ondarroa, they do land immature and illegal hake from British and Irish fishing waters by the ton. The Juan Mari's sorry record led us to believe we'd catch her red-handed.
What are you doing? You can't film here. I'm telling you, you can't film here.
The owner's son clearly knew he was breaking the law. As box followed box, the local tally sheet obtained by us showed that Juan Mari had landed nearly 6 tons of undersized hake, less than 1 ton of legal hake, and 10 times its quota of cod. This was smuggling on a grand and very profitable scale.
You be careful, yeah? Leave me alone. Will you just leave me alone? Leave me alone. Just go away. Come on, go back to your own.
Here was a British-registered Spanish boat literally putting 2 fingers up to British fishermen and indeed the entire community fishing policy.
You are the problem. You are the problem.
The Juan Mari is one of 18 Spanish trawlers legally registered as British, whose UK interests are looked after by Roberto Tregas in Surbiton, Surrey. Would you say that, say, the Juan Mari was a fairly typical example of vessels under your control?
Not very typical, but yes.
Because it's got a conviction for a hidden hold, a number of other convictions as well. And when we saw it coming into Ondarroa, it appeared to be mostly loaded with undersized hake.
I wasn't in Ondarroa when you were in there.
No, but let me show you some. Let me show you some pictures.
Yes.
When I showed you these pictures, your response really was no more than a shrug. So what? Another one? No remorse? Nothing.
Well, actually, I have remorse for a few hakes that are caught. Be sentimental. Fish. I'm telling you, the size of fish is not the Bible.
No, but the rules are supposed to be the Bible, and this ship has regularly broken the rules.
No, regularly. No. They have one conviction.
They have more than that. In fact, the Juan Mari has 17 previous convictions. As she and others prepared to set off for sea again, we were making our plans to return, this time with a British fishery inspector. What percentage, roughly, of the fleet you manage uses Ondarroa as a port?
There's about 10 ships, 10 out of the 18.
So more than half?
Oh, yeah, more than half, yes.
And this is the port that you say is the port to sell undersized fish?
That's the port where the undersized fish is landed, if and when it's landed, yes.
He says his boats couldn't make a decent living any other way. One shipwright who's installed secret holds told us nearly all the boats in Ondarroa have them.
One ingenious owner asked for the secret hold to be built under the toilet. Indeed, you had to dismantle the toilet to unload the fish from their hiding place.
In Galway Harbour, the police detained the boats on which we saw the secrets of her hidden fish hold being prized from the ice. Feelings run high in these parts. Local fishermen say the Spanish show them no mercy at sea.
At about 5 o'clock in the morning, one boat rammed him. He was rammed on the port side, and about in this area, like, but if she hit him back another 6 feet, she would probably have killed him in the wheelhouse because his bunk was in the wheelhouse, you know.
The side of the wooden Irish boat was stove in by the much bigger steel-built Spanish craft. And this has not been an isolated incident.
What's happening outside is highly dangerous because we can be working near maybe 4 or 5 boats, and these Spanish longliners see us working there. So they decide they're haking the area, and they'll come in 4 o'clock in the morning, and they'll shoot their lines, and they'll call us up, and they'll tell us move out. And if we don't move out of the area, they'll come in and they'll try to ram us. They'll pull up alongside of us, they'll try to chop our wires, and it's highly dangerous because we don't know whether we get rammed or not.
As a result, the local fishermen say they're now too scared to fish their traditional grounds. They say their port and their town will die. Grimsby, once the busiest fishing port in Europe, is already empty. Ironically, out-of-work British skippers now provide the legal cover the Spanish need to fly the British flag.
And what are they expected to do when they get on board such a ship?
They do nothing. All they're simply there to be fall guys. They just put their name to the logbooks and sign the fishing logs, and that is it. They're just fall guys.
Fall guys for what?
Illegal fishing.
And this is one of them.
I don't want to talk about it, okay? Don't show that on the...
Well, I'm not surprised.
In court in Ireland, Graham Walker from Cleethorpes and his Spanish boat have just been fined £35,000. In the European Parliament, Winnie Ewing believes there's worse to be discovered, that the hidden holds are being built with EEC grant money from taxpayers.
This document is dynamite. Grants have been paid for the modernisation of Spanish vessels, but there's no way that the community can verify which vessels have benefited from these grants. If any vessel is found to have illegal holds, we have no means to establish whether or not they received EC funding to complete their modernisation, and no way of determining where the vessels should be held liable to repay grants with their abuse. These are not my words, Mr. President. These are the words of the Committee of Auditors of this Parliament.
The face of the Spanish MEP says it all. He's heard much of it before. If he and his Spanish colleagues wanted to tackle the problem, the answer lies largely in the hands of his own government. The other MEPs know that too, but fear the worst.
We'll be out of stocks. There'll be no fishing. There'll be no livelihood. There'll be no fishermen.
In Spain, the Juan Mari is about to land again. Jim Portas has already discovered that illegal undersized fish are in such demand they're on open sale in Spain's biggest department store chain.
We were able to walk into a fish shop in Madrid and buy immature fish over the counter. And this is what we bought, which, as you can see, by any stretch of the imagination, is immature fish. And I'll show you that by measuring it on the measuring board that I would use in England. And you can see that this fish is well below the minimum size.
And to emphasize the point, he bought at the same time a fully grown hake. Few of those were seen on the dockside in Ondarroa when the Juan Mari unloaded at 3 a.m.
So you'll be measuring on that?
Jim Portas, with his official measuring board, would leave no doubt that the law was being broken. And it was. Boxes of immature fish, like the ones we'd filmed on the previous trip, were being swung ashore again. But this time, a mob of 250 closed on the Cook Report team. Inciting the mob, the same man who'd tried to stop us filming the time before, the son of the owner of the Juan Mari. It was a systematic beating up.
The camera was torn from our cameraman's shoulder. The tape was taken. We've not seen that since. The tape in the backup camera was also taken. We eventually got the cameras back, but as I said, no sign of the tape. The local police refused to come out. The Basque police instead have turned out. They say there's nothing they can do. They can't get the tape back, and they can't guarantee our safety.
The cameraman needed 5 stitches. Hit on the head with a docker's iron hook. The police later told us that the tape had been thrown into the harbour. Jim Portis witnessed the attack.
I was completely staggered by the reaction from the dock workers. After all, we were only there just to gather some evidence as to what this British fishing vessel had been catching. We weren't actually given an opportunity to measure them at the time because the mob literally pushed us away and started to destroy the camera and the lighting equipment, and it was a very frightening experience at that point.
The last time the authorities upset the town, the terrorists turned up. ETA blew up the quayside customs post. This time, Ondarroa closed ranks against the Cook Report. So, in an effort to retrieve our taped evidence, we imported our own team of divers. The local divers had been told their legs would be broken if they dared to go in. Jim Portis, meanwhile, made an official complaint to the Spanish Fishing Ministry about the unchecked law-breaking of a so-called British boat. And as the search began, one of the Fishing Ministry inspectors gave us a clue as to why they rarely visit Ondarroa. He and 3 others had recently had the full treatment.
That day, we inspected 3 boats. The last, a British flag boat, had both undersized fish and banned species. We were surrounded by a couple of hundred screaming people and fled into an office. The mob besieged us until the morning, by which time all the fish had disappeared.
Beneath the harbour, 3 feet of dead fish hampered the search, and efforts were made to get the divers to change sides. They were offered double the money to hand the taped evidence to the town. But the managing director of the firm that really owns the Juan Mari and a number of other local trawlers denied that anything untoward had happened.
We saw that vessel unloading undersized hake. We also had copies of its landing sheets which show that it landed 5.8 tons of undersized hake, less than a ton of legal hake, and that, for example, it exceeded its cod quota for that month by 10 times.
The overquota of the cod, I agree, is possible, but we didn't go over quota on the hake, and our hake was not undersized. Our small hake is always legal.
It wasn't, though, but presumably in case the tape was found, he came up with another story.
Sometimes we write on the boxes that they contain smaller-sized fish in order to keep our commercial image. It sells better when it's small.
And it was his lucky day. The tape stayed submerged. Back into port, as our search ended unsuccessfully, came another infamous Spanish flagship, unlikely to face scrutiny by officialdom because Spain, with Europe's biggest fleet, has only 30 dedicated fisheries inspectors against over 200 in Britain. The community fisheries policy, says its architect, simply doesn't work.
The reason why it's failed is that because you're relying on fisheries inspectors in the member states of the community to enforce the system. And if they don't want to enforce the system, there's no political will, and this is very much recognised, then the system will break down.
But in an effort to revive it, the British and Irish governments now both want our files, with a view to prosecuting the Spanish pirates and forcing the Spanish government into action.